Here's the new beginnings. Here's the new beginnings. The pull up so independent. We pull up so independent.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Sloan Blueprint. I am your co-host, Nicole Sloan.
And I'm Eric Sloan.
And this is a Couplepreneurs podcast, but we are so elated that you guys have joined us again for another episode to enlighten you and to give you some wisdom and some knowledge. And we told y'all that we were going to have a phenomenal guest. Mm-hmm. We told y'all now. I hope you were waiting on this.
A dynamic.
Wow. What'd you say, Willie?
Wow, yeah. They coming out later. No.
But we have with us today none other than Mr. Willie Durham of the Willie Durham State Farm Agency. Y'all, come on, give him a hand. And we are so elated and glad that you accepted the opportunity or the invitation. So we will jump right in. I know Eric.
So one of the things in the last episode, we were talking about generational wealth and so many different ways to build generational wealth. And we told you that we will bring a dynamic guest that is an expert.
Wow. And we said, you're right.
and going through a few things and doing some assessments. And we personally deal with Willie, and we thought that he would be a phenomenal guest to come and share some information to our audience where you can learn and then implement some of the things as well. Mm-hmm. So
we learn and grow together.
Exactly. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Willie Durham.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. Thank y'all for having me.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's indeed a huge honor, privilege, and I'm humbled by the invitation. I watch your podcast, your episodes. I'm always trying to get information, knowledge, always trying to, the Bible says iron sharpens iron.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
I commend you for what you're doing, though,
Thank
with
you.
the blueprint.
We appreciate that.
It's valued information. When you think about blueprint, you're thinking about giving folks the model, how to be able to perform, execute. No builder builds anything unless they have a set of blueprints. Mm-hmm. So if you're trying to help people build, you're giving them the blueprint to do that.
Right.
This month that we're taping this is Financial Literacy Month, the month of April. Mm-hmm. And what you're doing is trying to edutain people. Mm-hmm. It's informative, but it's also entertainment because I love seeing your spirit and your personality. It comes through.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so that's fun, but you can learn, and it's fun with your learning. Yeah. And I consider it an honor that you think that I have enough information and trust to be able to share with your audience.
Well, absolutely.
That's very humbling. And I'm excited about sharing as well.
Absolutely. And as we said, we use his services personally and have for so many years. And impeccable. I mean, that's one word to describe it. Professional.
Thank you.
Impeccable. Always prompt. His team, so I have to throw that plug in there because that's important for people to know.
And I'm honored. I never divulge our clients' information because it's personal. Mm-hmm. But when people feel comfortable enough to tell people who they do business with, that's a huge testament for us.
It is
because we want your audience to know that everything you do with us is confidential. Mm-hmm. We don't tell people we insure the Sloans.
That's right.
But when you tell people, then we can obviously appreciate that.
Yes.
Because it is a trust issue and it is a huge confidentiality issue, but also to know that people trust us with their assets, they trust us with their information. So I'm grateful for that. Absolutely. And I want to be able to share with your audience on some things that we think that's important to help them get where you are and where you're going.
And we're excited about it.
So one of the things, of course, as we're diving into it, we're talking about generational wealth, but I guess talking about generational wealth through an insurance. So
how to protect your generational
exactly. So I guess we'll baby step and say, why is it important to get insurance?
Well, that's a good lead in. And when I think about even the concept of generational wealth, some people I find will sit in a session, sit in a class, and they'll ride along, but they don't want to ask, what is generational wealth? Mm-hmm. So you think about that, passing down your assets to the next generation. Many of us are first generational business owners. Our parents labored, they worked, they did the best they could with what they had. And so for us to be generational wealth, we're first generation. So we work hard to acquire assets. I heard in the last installment, you talked about, duplex, you talked about stocks, you talked about passive income, you talked about real estate, you talked about things to be able to acquire wealth. Well, you can work extremely hard and build this generational wealth, but then you want to be able to protect it. And that's what insurance is. It's risk management. You either take a risk and you either keep the risk or you pass it to someone else. So imagine someone laboring and acquiring all of this wealth, and some attorney comes to snatch it away through one incident. Insurance is a way to help people protect what they have. There's several different types of insurance, and hopefully during this time we have an opportunity to discuss it because it's multi-level. It's an opportunity for us to build wealth through some of our products, but it's an opportunity to protect your wealth through some of our products as well. Sometimes what I find though, and you said this in your last podcast, is be careful who's in your circle. Because some people may not be where you are, and they tend to kind of discount some things on what they may have heard. I believe that earners are learners. People that learn tend to earn more, and I believe people that read tend to lead. So if you're acquiring information by being in a good circle of people or you're reading, I've spent a lot of my time reading. They're not long, big books. A Little Engine That Could was one of my favorites. But I read a lot. I'm an avid learner. I'm an avid reader. Insurance. The first one I talk about is property insurance. The Sloans have done extremely well for themselves. God has been very generous and kind to you. But through one incident, you can lose everything that you've acquired through a bad automobile accident. And your audience don't have to look far. Every billboard, every TV advertisement is, ever been injured in an automobile accident? Call me. I'm going to get them. And so if you don't have the proper amount of coverage for automobile to protect your wealth, to protect things that you've acquired, it can be taken away. That's on the property side. But also on your home. Someone could come to visit your home. You have a kid's birthday party, and there's a trampoline in the backyard, and someone get injured. You have to have the right amount of property and casualty protection to protect your wealth on the property personal side. But not only that, but in your business. You have a business. The first thing people say, whether they have an attorney or not, is, I'm going to sue you. I'm going to call my lawyer.
True.
People want to sue folks. If you don't have the right business insurance to protect your liability. I've often heard people say, my daddy being one of them, is, you can't get blood from a turnip.
Heard that saying.
You've heard that saying?
Absolutely.
But you know what? They can't, but they can take the turnip.
That's right. That's right.
They will take your turnip.
That's right.
So you got to have the proper amount of personal insurance in place. You got to have the right amount of business general liability insurance in place to protect your assets, because that's what you're protecting. But the truth of the matter is, you can protect future assets. You may not have acquired your wealth. You may be in the building stage. But if someone gets a judgment against you, that judgment sits there. That when you hit the lottery, or when you rich uncle passed and wants to leave his favorite niece or nephew something, or when you get injured in an automobile accident, you are now getting a judgment. If you have a huge judgment and that judgment is coming to you, but somebody sued you, then you're going to lose it before you even acquire it. So you have to protect not only today, but you're protecting tomorrow as well. So insurance is the way to do it on the property side and the business side. And then we'll talk a little bit about life insurance as well.
And these are some of the things that we often take for granted. You take it for granted until something happens. I know, and we've learned so much from you, even not just on the personal side, but on the business side as well. So how, in your opinion, can you build generational wealth via insurance?
Great question. One of the things people often say as cliches is, and I hear it a lot, unfortunately, is knowledge is power. That's partially correct, because knowledge is power, But the other side of it is the application of knowledge.
Yes.
You have to apply this knowledge. Eric and Nicole does a great job sharing knowledge. But if people don't act upon it, it's not powerful at all. It's just knowledge. So knowledge is the application of it. I do seminars. I go out to churches, fraternities, sororities, community centers, and do seminars. And people are so excited. Oh, that's exciting. Oh, I'm going to do that. Phone don't ring. Email doesn't come in.
Yeah.
Nobody calls. Because they were excited for the moment and it sounded great. But when we go back to doing what we've always done, we're going to get what we always got. Information is critical, but I would say the application as well.
Absolutely.
So I did a seminar on wealth building, generational wealth through life insurance. One of my favorite movies every year at Christmas time is It's a Wonderful Life. And in that movie, he had got so down and destitute because he owed all this money to the bank because his uncle had lost the deposit, right? He wanted to commit suicide, and he pulled out his life insurance policy because he was going to end it all, but he wanted his family to have generational wealth through that life insurance policy. It's back in 1922. Life insurance can generate wealth for your family, not only by a death benefit, but also has living benefits. You know, the people that write laws for life insurance are attorneys. They know how to work within the legal system. I heard Eric say on last week, we don't talk about tax avoidance, or we don't talk about not paying tax, we talk about tax avoidance. So, and you was very clear also, Nicole, in saying, in my opinion, these are the views of Willie Durham, not State Farm Insurance. This is from my viewpoint. But you can use a life insurance policy and fund it properly to be able to build wealth with a death benefit, but also with a living benefit. There's policies that you can overfund and put money into it. There's something called an infinite banking system where you can be your own banker, where people can get policies, structure it so that they put enough money into it that it builds cash value, that you don't have to go to a bank and apply for a loan and work on their structure on when you're going to pay it back, how much you're going to pay it back, what the interest rate. You can actually be your own banker. Put money into an account over a period of time. It builds cash value. And if you choose to buy a piece of equipment, you can go to the insurance company and get your own money. If you're having to pay for your daughter or son's wedding, you can get money. If you want to repair your kitchen or you want to it's structured through a life insurance policy, generational wealth. Now, with some people, they say, well, how much that cost? Well, it costs as much as you're willing to fund it. Sometimes, and I have to be careful on how I say this, because every conversation is not for everybody. So when people hear what other people are doing, sometimes the number scares them. You know, it's like when the spies went over and they went to look. And only Joshua and Caleb came back. They saw the fruits and how big they were, and they saw the giants, and the minority came back and said, we can do it, and the majority said, we can't. So sometimes people hear things and it sounds frightening for them. But don't let that discourage the others if you can. Infinite banking system is a good banking system. It's a good concept. Doesn't work for everybody, but it's a way to build generational wealth through life insurance.
Well, and another way to call it infinite banking, private banking. So same term or different names for it, but almost the same thing.
Exact same concept.
Yeah, exactly. So for those that are trying to figure out like, well, what is he talking about as far as infinite banking? So if you, as he mentioned, if you want to put so much funds in and then you borrow it from yourself. So now ultimately you're paying yourself to accomplish different things. And then from a taxes standpoint, because you're taking a loan from yourself, you're not having to pay taxes on it.
It's not taxable.
So for people that are trying to figure out, that's just one, I guess, minute way of breaking it down just a tad bit. But of course, you need the expert.
But again,
get into the weed
you're
details.
familiar with the concept. So I talk about a 3-stage approach. Is first becoming aware of something, and then once you're aware of it, you can be willing to learn more. And then if you want to do it, you have to be intentional about the execution of it. But first you become aware of it, because a lot of people are not aware of these concepts because they say, I've never heard of that before. So first you become aware of it. And then you want to learn more, you be willing to learn more information about it, because it could work for somebody. If people are putting a lot of money into their personal savings account or CD or a money market, and the banks are paying 0.00009% rate of return. But there's another concept that you can do the same thing with a life insurance policy. You're talking building generational wealth. For people that have the disposable income that they're able to do this works for them. And it's a win-win situation, building generational wealth through life insurance. And there's many concepts of doing it. And speaking of life insurance, I just want to take a brief moment to talk about the two types. There's two types of life insurance. Most people are very familiar with term life insurance. And there's nothing wrong or right about term life insurance. It is what it is. People buy term life insurance for 30 years to cover their mortgage, to cover their high earning periods of life, to cover their children while they're home. After 30 years, it's over. It's did what it's exactly designed to do. But then there's permanent life insurance. It has a place as well. There's different types of permanent life insurance. There's whole life insurance. There's universal life insurance. There is limited pay life insurance. So those are different permanent life insurance, and they can be structured to achieve a certain goal as well. So, but there's only two types, term and permanent. And people ask me which is the best. Depends on what you're trying to accomplish. That's what's the best, what you're trying to accomplish. But life insurance is something that people need to take advantage of in their young years, because when you're young, the prices are a little bit more competitive when you're young and when you're eligible. The older we become, the more ailments we have and the more medication we may need, and then the underwriting become more restrictive, and then you may not be eligible or qualify for it. So buy life insurance when you're young and buy when you're eligible.
And I think that's the thing too, educating people about the types of insurance and what it entails, because you may have a grandparent that bought life insurance when they were 40,
Right.
you know, and paid all this money into it over the course of the years.
That's right.
And then their policy ends up being what, $7,000-8,000 at the end of the, you know,
At the high
upon
end
their
of 7 or
death.
8,000,
Yeah.
right.
So what can you explain that, Willie?
It happened to me when I first got into the insurance industry. My mom and dad had a life insurance policy with a company that came around every Wednesday. The man would knock on the door. Mama had it on a nail in her bedroom back in the back, and she would give him $3, put his little initials, slide it back in. And those were called debit policies. They weren't life insurance. They were burial policies. They didn't even call them life insurance.
Wow.
They called them burial policies.
That was
and the reality is, it was only $500 or $1,000 policies.
Right.
But back in 1968, 70, 72, that's what they would sell us, was burial policies. But as time went on, very few people revisited those policies. And then funeral home costs kept escalating, and you didn't have enough with that burial policy to do anything.
Wow.
So a lot of times, and it was convenient because the person came around to your house, he took the payment, and over time he would quit or she would quit, and you would have a different person come and say, okay, I'm replacing Willie. But that's the best they could do. We don't have to settle for that now.
And sometimes it's just because they just did not know.
They didn't know.
Perish for the lack of knowledge.
Lack of knowledge. They didn't know.
Didn't understand.
And it's amazing you say that, because people say, is the same thing happening in 2022? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It is. There are certain communities that people won't let solicit. People can't come around and ring your doorbell and try to sell you a security system. It's a gated community, it's a private community, or whatever. In other communities, that people are going door to door. So the same things are still happening in different parts of town. So the same thing happened, lack of knowledge, lack of information. But one of the things I want to encourage your audience is to be inquisitive. Ask questions. And you can't compare what I'm doing to what you're doing. We got different, my interest rate is different than your interest rate. We could have the same house as a realtor you sell. You could have the same car as a person, and we'd be paying two different monthly payments.
Right.
I may have a 625 credit score, and you may have an 825 credit score.
Right.
So we can't shop in somebody else's personal wallet.
Correct.
So you can't say, well, I got a friend and he ain't paying but X. You don't know your friend's situation.
Yes, we do it.
You don't know. We do. They'll call me all the time. Mr. Durham, my cousin saying I'm paying too much. Well, how does your cousin know what too much is?
Right.
Everybody's situation is different.
Right.
So when it comes to life insurance, And people never tell you all of the story. They don't tell you that they diabetic. They don't tell you they got high blood pressure. They're slightly obese. They don't tell you about any of it. They just tell you what they want you to know.
Correct.
And then you'll call inquiring. Or you may think that you're not even eligible based off, well, I had a cousin try to get something and they couldn't get in it. Well, they're not telling you all of it.
Right.
Be inquisitive.
Yes.
Find out for yourself.
Right.
That's why I say readers are leaders and learners are earners. When you read, you learn more, and when you learn more, you earn more. Be inquisitive.
Well, and then with that, no, for me, you hear that a lot. So if you go to an insurance agent, well, no, you can't do that. Well, no to me just means a new opportunity. So it just depends on your perspective and how you see things. If you are always hearing no,
Negative or negative.
well, just move somewhere else because it may be a no for you,
Right.
but it may not be a no for the next person or the next person. You may get 100 no's,
Yes.
but then once you get to that 101, they say yes. Well, you won.
Yeah. So you have that kind of spirit. I mean, you have the no next. And I wish more people were built that way. But the reality of it is when people hear no, they stop.
Right.
Instead of linking next.
That's true.
I'm going to call somebody else and ask them. And I'll ask people often, 80%, according to the Life Insurance Research Association, they say 80% of people don't have life insurance. It's because no one has ever asked them.
Right.
80%.
Lack of knowledge.
Because no one has ever asked them for it. Most people say, I only have it on my job. Well, what happened if you transition from job to job? So we want to make people be inquisitive. Ask the question. When it comes to generational wealth, you said that the scriptures, we have not because we ask not. Now, I believe in to whom much is given, much is required, or another rendering say much is expected. So I've been blessed with a lot. So I try to go above and beyond to give people information.
Right.
Because I know that, again, most of us are first generational business owners and we don't know. We just know we have a passion for doing what we do. We have a passion for doing what we do. And no one's ever talked to us about the importance of having the right general liability in place. No one's talked to us about the different types of life insurance products. No one's talked to us about paycheck protection. And I'm not talking about the PPP program that the government came up.
Oh, Lord.
I'm not talking about that. I'm
It's a
talking paycheck
whole
protection.
nother
That's a whole other subject. The PPP is that if I'm self-employed, I do not work for a company that gives me a W-2, or I may be structured that way where I'm an employee of the company. But I don't have the benefits that a traditional 9-to-5 have. And I am the goose that continue to lays the golden egg. What happens if my goose get hurt and can't lay the golden eggs? So we need a disability policy. A disability policy, if I get sick, hurt, and can't work, I can't do this. I am the most productive person in my business, and now I get injured. What happens to your income stream in the business? Well, if no one's ever talked to you about a disability policy, your generational wealth now stalls. So we need to, Nick Saban and Deion Sanders are making a significant amount of money for Aflac because Aflac has been, one of the companies that offers those services. But State Farm has the same exact policies that Aflac has. They just done a better job in marketing because that's all they do. We have so many other products that people know us for our auto or our home, but life insurance, disability insurance. But business owners need to know about a disability policy. Imagine if you were a surgeon and you had those healing hands and you were a neurologist.
I don't know.
Yeah. You got some healing hands in a different way.
Yeah.
When she's stressed out.
Another subject.
I digress. I'm sorry.
Another subject.
Stay focused. Stay focused.
But you got them healing hands there, and you play golf, and something happened where you hurt your hand and you couldn't perform those surgeries. You think that neurologists have those hands insured? 100%. The dentist that's providing surgery. People that are maybe a very, 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 I say productive attorney, software engineer, realtor that rides around all day in a vehicle, showing houses. You need to have disability insurance. It's a wealth generational tool because if the paycheck stops, everything stops. You can't pay your auto insurance. You can't pay Alabama Power. You can't pay Spectrum. You can't pay Verizon. You can't pay all the services if the paycheck stops.
Right.
So I encourage people as part of wealth generation is to make sure they look at having some type of disability policy in place. I have it. Even though I own the business, that if something happened and I can't perform in the business, I want to make sure that the resources continue to come in.
So you talked about the disability insurance, but how is it factored in with the Paycheck Protection Program?
Yeah.
Because we've talked about that before, but I don't know if that
it's not a
correlation
part of
or
Paycheck Protection. It's a fancy name, what I call the disability. Paycheck Protection was a government program the government had that a lot of our people missed out on because they weren't structured properly.
Gotcha. Okay.
That was a one-time deal where the government came due to COVID and was able to allow you to keep your payroll going. If you maintain the same payroll, they were able to pay you for that period. But if you're not structured properly, and that's another conversation y'all had, you miss out on those. You know, and this is just as a, another nugget I share with you is every business owner needs to have a bail team. BAIL is what I call it. Somebody to bail you out. And the B is you need to have a relationship with a banker, not when you need one, but before you need one. You need to have a relationship with an attorney. You need to have a relationship with an insurance person, and you need an accountant. So the B is banker, the A is attorney, well, I say accountant. And the I is for insurance, and the L is for lawyer. You need to have a relationship with those people that can properly advise you.
Correct.
And again, it doesn't have to be expensive. Doesn't have to be, but you need to have access to somebody to give you advice.
Right.
So when the Paycheck Protection Plan came available, and they asked you for your P&L statement, and you don't need to have that deer in your head look like what's a P&L statement? You know, or I need
for those that don't know. You know,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that they know, but that's profit and loss.
Okay, yeah, and that's
some people don't know.
That's it though. That you're right. Some people
Can't
don't
take that
know.
for granted.
You can't take it for granted. But if nobody's talked to you about having a profit and loss statement. You just know that every month you seem to make the bills pay and you seem to keep the lights on, but you don't know what your profit and losses are. And that's what an institution is going to look for when it comes for times for like a paycheck protection. If the government came out and says we're going to have a certain program, then everybody else is getting ahead of the line and we're trying to get stuff in order. You know, but generational wealth, again, I see a lot of times business owners just have a passion. They figure that I'm tired of helping everybody else attain wealth. I'm the person that do all the painting in here. I do all the repairs. I do all of whatever. And you want to go out and launch into your own, but you're not properly structured because you don't know what somebody else been doing behind the scenes. So that's just a different nugget, is that any business owner, get you a bail team in order. Don't try to say, I do all my stuff on QuickBooks. You may be the best cupcake maker in the world, but QuickBooks give me a headache.
I'm telling you.
I need to have an accountant that can take care of that, so I can focus on making the best cupcakes.
That's true.
Some people just choose to do it all themselves, and you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So that's mine. But generational wealth, back to life insurance, it is a product that can help be transformational. I heard what you talked about in inheritance. The scripture, a good father will leave an inheritance to the children's children, and that inheritance could be a life insurance policy.
Yes.
That could be the first mechanism to give generational wealth to your family. A good life insurance policy, because it's one of the few things that passes outside of an estate, probate, and it passes outside of judgments. So if you die and you have a life insurance policy, you may owe everybody in the world, but they can't touch the life insurance. And then if you have a judgment, they can't touch that either. So it passes outside of all of that.
Right.
So it could be the first mechanism that if you think that if you get sued or if you have a judgment against you or if something happened, they can't touch the life insurance money. So it's a good way it's a good safe harbor.
Good.
So it makes me think, well, what age would you recommend that someone should consider getting insurance?
Great question. Thank you. With State Farm, literally, once they're 15 days old, I have parents that call me on the 15th day. Unfortunately, this is my 18th year being in business, fortunately, but I've had several clients have children die. Children die. One of them I had 2 children die.
Wow.
The first one died of SIDS at the daycare. They went to wake the baby up, the baby was passed. Didn't have life insurance on that baby. She conceived again, got pregnant, and then the second child died. but we had life insurance because once that baby got 15 days old, she called me immediately and got life insurance. But that kid passed as well.
Wow.
You can get life insurance as early as 15 days old.
Wow.
And the reason people do that, you don't do it to benefit from the death of your child. What you do is you're protecting the child's insurability moving forward. Because you don't know whatever challenges that child may have later on. But because mama or dad bought a life insurance at 15 days, then they're guaranteeing they can get life insurance with the rest of their life. With State Farm, we have a clause called guaranteed insurability, that if you ever needed life insurance in the future, you can buy more because you bought a policy at age 15 day old. Yeah, and there's different types of policies we offer for those children. I bought my son when I became an insurance agent when he was 6. I bought him a limited pay policy, and you just pay for a limited amount of time, and then now his policy is paid up forever. The policy that I have him. So when he gets grown, which he is now, but he's still
grown,
at home.
grown.
When he get grown
We
and
mean
gone.
grown.
Yeah.
Grown
He
and
ain't
gone.
grown.
Yeah.
But once he gets his own family, then he can get him a policy to take care of him and his whole family.
Right.
But mom and dad bought him a policy when he was 6. Now that policy is paid up. It's a limited pay policy. And I didn't get that to benefit if he died. Now I guaranteed him the right to buy more life insurance moving forward.
Right.
And it's something that we need to get for our children. And I don't ever criticize other companies, but I will tell you that there are some companies that provide a service and there's companies that provide better services. You know, there are some companies, they may have a car that gets you to and from, but then there may be some other better quality cars. So I commend anybody for getting something, but there are some better policies out there. I'll just say that.
All right, so switching it from the personal side
To the
on business.
Yes.
So what do you encourage? I know we said earlier as far as general liability
Yes, sir.
insurance, and you mentioned about payroll and the disability aspect. Is there a particular time in business that they need to start giving insurance?
Yes,
And if you have, I'm going to throw you a plug, a key person.
Yes, sir.
Tee it up for me.
There you go.
So as a business owner, the time to get insurance is the time you open the door. You have to get insurance because it just takes doing your grand opening. Your best day could be your worst day. Somebody slip and fall and injure themselves.
Right.
So you can open the doors and close them the same week. Get insurance as soon as you open the doors. Part of being, one of my highlights is 3 years ago, I was the chairman of the Montgomery Chamber of Commerce. And one of my emphasis was on small business. Because I wanted to make sure that small businesses had the same tools to be successful as our large businesses. These people have invested their everything into this business. They need to have the tools and resources to make sure that business was successful. So insurance was part of it. Alabama Power requires a huge deposit when you're opening the doors, and depending on the type business, depending on the type of the size of the deposit. Well, some businesses don't have that kind of money to put down because, believe it or not, 8 out of 10 businesses fail within the first year. You can Google it. 8 out of 10 businesses fail within the first year. Well, if you listen to those stats, only 2 are going to be successful. And when people are going out of business, they don't pay the vendors, the suppliers. They done lost everything they had. So if Alabama Power says you got to put down a security deposit, that if you close the doors, you're not going to pay your last power bill. Well, we offer a utility bond that stands in place of that. And I want to make sure customers know that as a small business is all the tools that were available for them. So to get insurance, the day you open the door, the first day. The second thing is there's different types of insurance. Key person insurance. That's something that business owners is, once your business is extremely successful and you have key employees that you depend on, should that employee die, your business is, if they was writing 40% of the revenue, 40% of your revenue stops. So you can have a key person in place, insurance policy that you paid, and that person now, you're the business owner owns the policy. It can be able to gap fill your business until you can train, hire, and develop somebody else to replace that income. And so it's a good thing to have. If you were a software engineer and this person did most of the business, or you was a law firm or an insurance company, or whatever your business was, this is my main guy. He can, do whatever. This is my main young lady. She can do whatever. That's the golden goose. So how much would you protect that golden goose? As much as you could. Another insurance that a lot of people are not aware of, I think that's important, is professional liability insurance. You need professional liability insurance. That's different than general liability. Professional liability is when you err or you make a mistake. You either omit something or you make an error in it, and it causes somebody else harm.
A lot of people know about errors and omissions.
A lot of people know errors and omission. Yes, that is a professional liability, errors and omission.
Okay.
That's professional liability. That if you make an error or you omit to do something and it causes someone else damage, they can come after you. You want to have that type of insurance. Because general liability protects if you came into my place and you slip and fall and you hurt yourself. Or you was in my place of establishment and somebody had a beef with me and they came in and shot up the whole place and y'all were in there sitting down and y'all got injured. Now you're suing the whole company. That general liability. But what about my goods and services? You are a caterer and you just ruined my whole wedding. Or you were a travel planner, or you were a realtor and you forgot to fill out some paperwork. The interest rate went from 2.5 to 5.5. It cost me something. I want to sue you because you cost me. I'm going to pay a 3% rate higher for the next 30 years. So professional liability. I'm an insurance agent. I gave somebody bad advice, or one of my team members, my staff gave you bad advice and you acted upon it. Either I made an error or I should have told you something that I didn't tell you. There's so many opportunities out there to make sure that you're protected. Business owners need to make sure of their risk. Either you're going to maintain the risk or you're going to transfer it to me. And if people say, nobody ever told me about that, you need to sit down and talk to an insurance professional on all the gaps that you may have in front of you. Because I heard you say very clear last week, Eric, on the podcast, is we can build wealth, but we have to learn to protect our wealth. And insurance is a way to protect my wealth. And you first have to be aware of it, you have to be willing, and then you have to be intentional.
You do.
See, that's a beautiful thing. See, I'm pretty sure we can have this conversation, especially Willie and I, all day. See, I get excited about stuff like this.
Well, Willie makes it exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, we get drawn in when you're talking, even because we call and we ask a lot of questions and we email a lot of questions. And you've had extensive conversations with us.
I have.
Really.
And again, because you and Eric are inquisitive. Eric like to ask questions and say, okay, and he'll sit back and smile and say, okay, so you're telling me. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Think on it for a minute.
Yeah, but you need to ask those questions because there's a lot of gaps out there. And believe it or not, there are people out there that are willing to sue.
Yeah.
We live in a very litigious society. There are people that are encouraging people to sue. And if they think you have something, then they're going to come after it. Either your personal assets are going to pay it or the business is going to pay it. But it's going to be paid.
Yes. I find that people are apprehensive, willing to even maybe talk to you as an insurance agent because they're fearful. Intimidation, ashamed.
Yeah.
You know, feel like, oh, I shouldn't have waited this long. You know, don't feel like you've waited too long. If you don't have life insurance today, then get it today.
That's a good point.
You know,
Thank you.
Really.
And I try to remove that, and I really am a comedian on the side. You know, because I understand where people are, right? Again, most of us are first generational. So the only, you know, and they told us this in the Marines, the only stupid question is the question not asked.
Exactly.
Right.
So there's no such thing. So there's no, you know, you may be a business owner and you may be all that. Ask the question. Because, I mean, I'm telling you, it won't be the first time I've heard it. But I want people to know that I'm about as down to earth as you can. Drake started from the bottom, now I'm here. That's my thing. I mean, I came out of Gills Village, very humble beginnings. Served 20 years in the Marines. I've worked very hard to build my practice. I have a 23-year-old son now that we continue to pray, but every day he leaves home, my whole financial future is attached to the hood of my car. Every day we leave home. So I got to make sure I'm protecting my assets. And I guarantee you, we welcome those questions, though.
Yes.
I want people to, and that's another thing of having a local agent. Somebody that you don't have to Google an 800 number, and every time you call, you get a different person.
Yes.
You can reach me, and you can come sit down on the couch in the chair, and we can talk.
Yes.
I'm out in the community doing a lot of stuff, but I will make my schedule accommodate to fit your schedule because it's that important to me. And when we say like a good neighbor, we are a good neighbor.
You absolutely are.
You know, back in my day, a good
No
neighbor,
doubt.
we borrowed some sugar from them. Next week, they borrowed some flour from us.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you know,
Right.
We are. But I want people to know that there's no pretense here, and I ain't looking at anybody like, wow, I can't believe they don't have this.
Right.
It is what it is. So, but I'd rather you err on the side of, thinking that, well, I don't want him to know, so let me call somebody else. No, we are confidential. I said early on that, the Sloans, I'm privileged to serve as their agent, but I would have never said that because of confidentiality. So if someone comes to me on my team, and my team know that as well, the quickest way to have an exit strategy is to reveal somebody's personal information.
That's right.
So my whole team, and they know my policy on that we don't talk about nobody's situation.
Right.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is.
Well, as we're closing up, how can they reach out to you?
Just making sure I covered all the things I wanted to talk about, sir.
That's right. Have your notes. That's right.
What I want to share with how to reach out.
Please.
One of the things I want to tell my little story on this first, Eric.
All right, gotcha.
One of the celebrations I was at while I was the chairman of the chamber, a business in town was celebrating their 100th year in business.
Okay.
And one of the owners, who was a managing partner, that he was retired from the business, but he was one of the speakers. And he said, to the new junior members of the organization is that, we all drinking from a well that we didn't dig. I want y'all to understand that you have an obligation to protect the well. I want you to understand you have an obligation to secure this well. You need to make sure that this well is up and running for those that are coming behind you. And I thought about that. We're drinking from water, from a well that we ain't dig. Most of us are digging this well from our families and the generation that comes behind us. So I'm not drinking from a well that was dug. I dug this well. I want to make sure I'm protecting it for my son and his children's children. I got to make sure I'm doing everything within my means and power to get information, to process that information, and to act on that information. So every product that I tell my clients about, trust me, I'm my number one client. I own a disability, I own a personal liability umbrella, I own professional, I own life insurance, I own every product we have because I know out there how important it is. So people that want a second opinion, you may have a relationship with somebody already that you're doing business with. And I don't want my clients to leave me to go to the next shiny thing. But if you don't have somebody that you feel you have the trust and confidence and have an open conversation, I love to be a second option for you. And we'll keep it in confidence. But I have a website, williedurham.com, that you can visit. And 272-9100, area code 334-272-9100. You could call me. My office is 943 Northeastern Boulevard. You can come by and see me. I cover people in Huntsville, Alabama. I have many clients at Normal up there at Alabama A&M.
Normal, Alabama.
I have customers at South Alabama, Mobile. I have the entire state of Alabama. And today with this virtual technology, I can send you a link and we can meet virtually on your iPad, your Apple product. We can meet virtually. But anyway, we want to meet you in the manner that you prefer to meet us. But we'll make ourselves available just as a second opinion. I am passionate about this generational wealth. I'm passionate about insurance, and I love having an opportunity to work with you. And I'm so honored that you allowed me this opportunity to share on this podcast.
Absolutely. We are so grateful to have you.
And let me give one more plug since he's throwing all these other universities out there.
Oh, goodness.
So we got to make sure that he has clients from the Troy University, number one.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But we also have to give a plug for the Alabama State University. So just had to put that out there.
One of our sons attends Alabama State University.
Dr. Quentin Ross and our personal friends, he and I talk often. And Jack Hawkins is a good friend of mine. We had a State Farm agent regional meeting, and we wanted to have it somewhere central where all the agents could meet. So Troy was the place we came up with. So I called Chancellor Hawkins and asked could he provide us a meeting space on the campus. And we met right above in the nice dining facility where all the flags and all. He gave us a nice room up there. So the Trojans are friends.
Yes.
Yeah. We make sure we reach out to all of our friends.
That's right.
Go Troy.
Well, Willie, thank you again so much for accepting the invitation.
Is it over?
We could stay here as long as you want,
They say time fly when having fun.
There you go.
Flew.
Yes. He'll be ready to party. But yes, we surely appreciate you coming.
Okay.
as Willie said, don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid. Call him. I promise. We can certainly attest to the professionalism and then not only that, the compassion that you all I really mean that.
And not just you, your
Yeah,
entire
your
team.
entire team.
The entire team.
Can I say that about my team? I got the best team.
You do.
We've
You
been
do.
in
You
the
have a great
top
team.
3% of State Farm agents in the country. Top 3%. It's because of my team. I have a team that are professionals.
Yes, they are.
I train them well. I pay them well. I make sure that they're able to take care of my clients.
Yes.
And they're passionate about it as well.
Oh, they are.
And thank you for saying that.
They are.
Because you can go on our Google reviews. We got people that just talks about how well and professional we are because we're passionate. You talked about multiple streams of income. I have rental property. I have a business. I retired from the Marines. I'm not trying to get in your pocket. I'm trying to make sure that others stay out of your pocket, right?
That's
so
right.
we're in the sales and we're a business. We're not a nonprofit, so we're here to make money. And we make money by taking care of clients, and they tell somebody else and tell somebody else and tell somebody else.
That's right.
So we're going to tell you what you need to know, not
That's
what you
right.
want to hear.
Right, that's right. So while you're building generational wealth, you got to protect your generational wealth. You want to tell everybody how to connect with us?
And continue to follow us.
Follow
We
us.
ask you to go
Please.
to, is it YouTube, and subscribe. So one of the things people have been asking us, like, oh, how do we do this? How do we stay in contact with you? Well,
Yes.
first thing you do, go to YouTube, www.youtube.com.
All right.
If you go to the search function and hit Sloan Blueprint, it'll come up. Then there's a little button over on the end that says subscribe. You click on subscribe, and then what happens is you get all of the information that we put out, whether it be progress, not perfection, whether it be
From your
from my standpoint, and then also from the podcast. So
Yes.
we're constantly putting things out there. So to stay in contact with us, if you do that, then you get it automatically. As soon as we publish something, you get it via email. You
Right.
can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and we also have other podcasts or other things out there that we certainly encourage you to participate. As far as the Boss Time 2, that's a brand that we have created. So
It is available. www.wearethesloans.com. Please. Merchandise is available. And also, if you have a suggestion or recommendation for a guest or a topic that you'd like for us to discuss, please email us at info@sloanblueprint.com. It's info@sloanblueprint.com. So thank you again, Willie. We certainly appreciate you. We thank you all for joining us, and we pray that you have a blessed and a prosperous week.
Here's the new beginnings. Here's the new beginnings. The pull up so independent. We pull up so independent.